Hello and welcome to another episode of the Construction Corner Podcast. I'm Dylan. I'm your host, joined with my blue collar badass, Matt. How's it going, my friend?
What's up, man? Things are good here. It is an icy tundra today, 4 degrees, a balmy 4 degrees when I left for work this morning, but the sun came out and progress is still happening in the construction industry in southeastern Michigan. So it's great, man. How are you doing?
Hey, man, so long as you got some projects under roof, right?
That's right.
Winter's
That's
not
right. We actually planned it this year, so we have 2 that are heated by all this time. So it's nice. We got 1 outside, but it's earthwork and they're in heated cabs, so they don't mind.
They might even be opening those doors.
Yeah,
so much heat.
For sure.
Man. Well, today, guys, I have a good story to kind of kick this off. Is with maintenance, really, and service technicians. So I think I talked about on here. We our oven went to complete garbage in middle of December. Like the power company messed up our motherboard, all that kind of good stuff. So needed to get a new oven. And while in and of itself not a huge deal, right? Going on vacation, scheduled delivery after. Lowe's managed to, so they tried to deliver. Our driveway was icy, so they, because they're actually going to carry it into the house, so they, didn't want to back up the driveway, or the guy couldn't drive, whatever. And then so they took it back, managed to lose it somehow in the next week. Between
lost the whole oven.
Yeah, like couldn't find it, didn't know where it was, and the guy doing deliveries is like, I don't, let me go check if it's here. And my wife was the one that called, and she's like, what do you mean check if it's here? And sure enough, they go out there, not in the warehouse. It's like, well, why'd you sell our oven? what the hell? We paid for it, like that's what. Okay, so whatever. All right, what else can we get? So she went in and picked out another one that was like close enough, or they marked it down to be the same price, because again, we'd already like paid for it. So okay, yeah. Fine. When can you get it out here? And they're like, well, we only do deliveries in your area on this date. And it's like, what? What do you mean? I'm like, no, you're going to come sooner and deliver it. So okay, fine. They got it out here. So we get it out, and then and we kind of knew this was coming. So with natural gas ovens, they all have, or with gas ovens, they come with natural gas orifices installed. So we had to change it all out for propane. It's like, oh, okay. So we did all the burners, did the one in the oven, and then like you got to connect the thing, and it's like, oh, I don't have like it's 2 like female connectors. It's like, oh, this isn't gonna work. And then they talk about like some PSI stuff, and I'm like, oh shit, I don't have a gas gauge, or I'm like, I don't know how this stuff works. Like, do I need to adjust it? Like, is the adapter right? And whatever. So she called the propane company. Turns out they've got a maintenance department, like a service fleet. And talking to the guy today when he came out, they're the only one in the county that has actual service techs. They've got 5 of them, which means that they're like busy all the time doing stuff. But he came out and, like help basically finish the installation. He's like, oh, cool. Looks like you've done all this. It's right. I'm like, good. that's great. I just don't want to like deal with, propane and gas, and like, I can't see this stuff. Like, am I going to burn down the house? Right. Like, I don't want any of that to happen. And just didn't know.
Right.
Like, okay, got a guy that knows what the hell he's doing to come out and do this stuff. So, and then the other thing that I didn't realize, so within the burners, so like when you turn down to low, it was still like, dude, it would have cooked a chicken, like on the low setting, still like, and I could have just singed the thing without a pot, it's just like 3-inch flame coming off the burner on low. And he's like, well, that's not so good. But in them, you basically stick a little screwdriver in and you can turn the burner down to where it actually simmers. You can adjust the burner settings behind, right? Like,
you don't say.
It's like you can actually simmer stuff now. So he adjusted all the settings. I'm like, shit, I wouldn't have known that. It's, like I get yelled at for scorching the pans or something. It's like, well, it's not my fault, clearly. But that's, so again, the whole thing was that a service technician actually came out, actually, fix a thing, was really good about the stuff. And our propane company had people to do that. So the whole point of this story really is to say that like having people to come and do like those maintenance things, and like again, they're the only ones in the county that have this, is, and everybody's on propane out here because with as much power outage, like that's a good way to keep heat in your house. So with that, like having these service techs really adds a lot of value to the company. It's like, well, I'd never want to go to another propane company now because I know if something breaks, I can call somebody and they'll send somebody out, right? Like it's a very good service that they provide. And I think that sometimes we forget those little personal human touches for, and again, this is propane, but it goes for anything, right? For plumbing, HVAC, like electrical, any service type of work, that having good guys to do it, even like Lowe's having a delivery service, right? To like bring this stuff to us is a huge benefit that I think we often overlook because we have people on site, we have people do things in construction projects, but the service aspect of a lot of those things is just as important as the actual building and installation of whatever it is that we're doing.
It absolutely is, because that's where people get their level of comfort from, right? When they know that they can call you or me or the propane guy, and when something goes wrong, they come out and fix it. That's a level of comfort. It's one less thing that they need to worry about. Kind of unpacking your story a little bit. First of all, I was just noting the irony in it that the guys from Lowe's who come out to do it weren't equipped or couldn't or didn't want to or whatever to do all that shit themselves, and that the propane company could. I never would have even thought to call the propane company for something like that. So that's good on your wife for doing it, and then good on them for having the service. That's pretty neat. We're on electric heat here. We have a geothermal, so it doesn't really matter until the power goes out, and then we're out of luck. We have a propane tank, but it only does the pool heater currently, and to pipe everything in, we would have to go through all of our existing appliances, much like you did, and swap out all the orifices and all the other shit. And I've never wanted to do that, but it, it's good that they come out and do that sort of thing. And it reminds me, we just got new furniture upstairs right before the holidays. It was my wife and my kind of gift to each other. We got new couches and chairs and stuff. And they have these little, it's like a brass medallion thing. It's real small, like an inch big, and it's nailed into the wood leg on each piece at the bottom. It has like a little branding on it. Well, one of the pieces, we got 6 things in total. One of them, when the guys showed up, first of all, let me back up. We ordered this shit on like a Sunday night. We finally picked out what we wanted. We ordered it thinking it was going to be months and months and months. The next day, the dude showed up with all the furniture and installed it, which was amazing. But anyway, so we got this little medallion thing, and it's nailed into the wood. Well, it's missing, or excuse me, one of the nails is like bent in half. So it's loose and it's kind of flopping. I'm a carpenter by trade, right? Like I zeroed in on that shit immediately. I'm like, oh, we got to fix this. Well, the nails they're like little furniture tacks. It's like a 1/4 inch long. And my repertoire of tools and fasteners and shit out here in my barn, I don't have that level of fastener. So we called the company, said, hey, everything's great. Furniture's comfy. It looks great in the house. We love it. But we need one of these little nails. Can you throw it in an envelope and mail it to me? And they're like, they didn't understand what we were talking about first. So we had to, go through the process and let them figure out what the hell it was. But then they're just like, well, we can't do that. So what the fuck do you mean you can't do it looks stupid now because it's hanging there. And the guy goes, we'll send somebody out. I go, no, man, no. Like, listen, I'm handy enough to put a nail in. It will literally take somebody 15 seconds once they get here. And it's probably a 45-minute drive at least to get from wherever they are to my house. They wouldn't do it. So a couple of days ago was the appointment. This poor dude drove for an hour from there, wherever they home base, shows up, he walks inside. I was working from home that day. So my wife and I are talking with him, and he's like, all right, so what's going on? I hear that all the staples are ripping out of the back of the couch. And we're like, no, dude, we're missing a 1/4 inch nail that holds on the little medallion. He looks at me and he goes, are you serious? I said, hold on, hold on. We tried over and over again to just have him put it in the damn bag and mail it. So long story short, the guy was rightfully upset at his company. He didn't have the damn little nail on his truck. So he looked through every bin in his truck for this little thing. But much like on the same line of the story, you know, he was out here to service it. He recognized that something wasn't right, like the customer wasn't happy. So after getting through all the tumultuous beginning there, he was supposed to go back and he was going to get a whole bag of them and ship them to me. So we had extras. I have yet to see them. So if we don't get them, we'll be making another call and he'll probably be making another drive. But it was amazing to me. Like they pushed somebody in a van and shoved them out the door to go drive an hour one way just to come and keep me happy. I'd already paid for it. It's already delivered. I've already been sitting on it. You know, they could just as easily say, screw you. But it was cool. I mean, it was ridiculous, but it was cool that they did it. And so
Never going to buy furniture from anybody else.
Probably not, you know, I might buy stock in little miniature nails, but
yeah, I don't know how much money's in that, but but that's the point, right? Like you're never going to do business with somebody else because they've treated you so well even after the sale that
yep.
And they delivered it. I mean, from purchase to installation was a day, which you thought it would be forever. Like they've gone above and beyond in all of their service.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was not, the guys showed up at like 7 or 8 o'clock at night the next day after we ordered it. And you've met my wife. She's like making them food and, you know, giving them plates of food and drinks and stuff. And so they were happy about it. It's a win-win. And we had new furniture like 12 hours after we ordered it. They moved my old couch down to the basement for me. I threw them some change on the side because it's just to thank them, but like I couldn't move that thing by myself. So it's good to see. And we see it, you know, kind of tying it back to construction. We see it a lot. You know, once you commission a building and you fire everything up, especially on a new build, you know, stuff goes wrong. Like, you know, the building's got to work its kinks out, and that can take some time. And to have, you know, we know which trades, which subs of ours have really good service departments, and to have those guys on board and able to either, if I have to call them or if the owner calls them directly, knowing that they're going to run out there and take care of the problem, they're going to, you know, go deliver the 1/4 inch nail, whatever it may be. It's a reassuring feeling for me as a business owner. And I can pass that reassurance on to the client, to the building owner. Like, listen, you know, we talked about the other day with Bill Ryman about our 1-year lifetime warranty. You know, I don't like to advertise that shit, but that's really what it is. You know, we're there to take care of the customer because they are our best marketing ever. And so whether that's service during the project or service after the project, that's a crucial component to business longevity.
Yeah, and even like Bill was talking about, right? 5 years later, he's still going to answer the call, right? Like it's built it. This is ours. This is our name. You know, we're going to take care of you. And I think a lot of people forget that, right? Or don't pick up the phone, don't call, don't answer. And, you know, it's pretty detrimental to everything that you're doing.
I had a subcontractor that we worked with quite a bit. This is 3 or 4 years ago, and similar situation came up. You know, we had an issue with a previous install, and it was, you know, 16, 18 months after the fact. And I called the guy and told him what was going on. And he pulled the card and said, sorry, dude, that's out of warranty. We only warranty for a year. You know, I can do it, but I'm going to charge him. And I said, well, here's what we're actually going to do. Go out there and do the work. Send me the invoice. I'm going to pay it out of my own pocket, and you're never going to hear from me again. And to date, we've cut and severed ties completely with the guy, because I get it. You know, you got to protect your own interests. And there are people who will take advantage of that, of you being nice, right? And of trying to preserve the relationship. There's definitely some of those clowns out there, but for the most part, you know, people just want what they paid for. They want it to be right. And if you can't help them keep it that way, then you have no place here.
Yeah. And in there, like it's fine lines with a lot of this stuff, guys, right? There's a ton of judgment, baked into a lot of this. It's, if the guy didn't install it right to begin with, that's one thing, right? Then he won't own his work and he's just using warranty to cover, bad craftsmanship, right? This thing shouldn't go wrong in 16, 18 months. And there's like both sides of that, right? Like, okay, it's out of warranty, but is this actually a manufacturer problem or is this bad craftsman? Like there's 6 things a Sunday that could be wrong with it. And you're talking about it sight unseen, right? It's one thing to be
Yeah.
going out there like, hey, what's the what's the actual problem? Let's get down to the root of it. And then like, okay, who's actual, like, how do we go from here? And usually we're jumping to assumptions before ever looking at it. So one of the stories, I think this was Edison, did this, but he would, in interviewing people, he would they'd go out to lunch and he would, I'm pretty sure this was Edison, but it could have been somebody else. They would take him out to lunch and they'd order whatever, right? But he only conducted interviews at lunch or some food, right? Some meal. And the people that would salt and pepper their food before they ever tasted it, he would never hire them. Right? Because
Love
you're
it.
making assumptions.
Yeah.
It's an assumption made that before you ever taste anything. But and this goes to like a lot of these points of somebody jumping to like whose fault is it? What's the problem? Before we ever investigate anything. And that creates a lot of undue problems before you just like, hey, can we get to the root of it? Let's go look at it. Let's figure out what the deal is, or send me some pictures or whatever. Then you can make a rational like judgment from there. But far too often we jump to something that is really just a bad assumption.
Yeah, and I think that's that's kind of an ugly side of human nature, right? We all want to blame somebody else right off the jump, whether or not you vocalize it or not. That's a different story. But I think it's hard to accept fault, or it's hard to accept that sometimes things just break or don't function properly, and they're all there's machines and there's mechanical bits and pieces in all these systems that we install, and moving parts have the propensity to not move anymore, and it's really nobody's fault. But especially when you tie dollars to that fault, then people get kind of wishy-washy, and they can get downright mean about it at sometimes. Like nobody wants to pay, let's say the HVAC unit blows a belt at month 13, and it's going to cost my HVAC company money to send their service tech out there to pull the rooftop unit apart, climb in there, supply the parts, all this stuff. So there's a definite balance, right? Now, do they pass that cost on to the owner because they legitimately contractually could, rightfully could, or do they swallow it and just take it as a loss and hope that goodwill towards another human, towards another client, is going to reward them with future business? I can tell you the folks that we work with a lot, opt for the latter within reason. I mean, there's times and places when it's just enough's enough. Okay. But I think it's always good to err on the side of giving a little more, give, and you'll get type theory.
Yeah, it's, man, I have mixed feelings on some of this too, because I've been around long enough for, we'll get you on the next one, right? And then the next one never shows up, and I think a lot of guys that have been in the industry long enough too, like that, you all know what I'm talking about, right? Where, hey, we got plenty of projects in the pipe and we'll give you all this work. And it's like, I'll believe it when I see it, right?
Yeah.
So there's that side of it too. Now, if it's a long-standing client, yeah, man, like you preserve that relationship over everything else. You still go above and beyond. But I think in construction, like it's like you still want to give, like I still want to believe that people are going to do that and go above and beyond. But at the same time, like, why did you actually use me on this project? Was it because you had a desperate need and you're going to go back to the guys you've always been using? Or was it like you really want to give this a shot and opportunity, and then that's a different deal, right? So I think there's a ton of nuance in this, because so often, like, they're going to go back to the guys they always use and their buddies, and like, are you actually in, or was this like you had no other option than to use me on this project, and you have no intention of coming back, but you feed the same line of BS to everybody? And that's, I think, you got to know who you're dealing with. And I totally agree, and going above and beyond. And I do that in a lot of things, but at the same time, and not to paint the whole industry bad, but there's a notoriousness of, we'll get you on the next one type of thing. And it's, again, I prefer to go above and beyond and do more for people, but there is a line, and this is probably my old age, there's a lot more nuance to it than, I thought when I was 25, right?
Well, there is, and I'll throw up the flag. I mean, this is a problem with old school general contractors, right? That is the stereotypical GC. I'll get you on the next one, or hey, I need some help. I need it right now. We'll take care of you. And then they never do, or the next one never comes, or like you said, you go back to using your buddy. And it drives me nuts. I follow a couple people on LinkedIn who 80% of their content I really like, I really mesh with, and I interact with them. But the other 20% is nonstop bitching about general contractors. And while I get where they come from, because I've seen this sort of behavior. It's also, I feel it's my duty to stick my foot in the mix, or stick my face in the mix, one of the two, and open my mouth and say, all right, hey, it doesn't have to be like that. We're not all assholes. You can't broad brush it just like anything else. But, there's also that nuance of bringing a new guy as a GC, of bringing a new trade, a new subcontractor into the mix. And, we seek to build our team. I talk about our team all the time, and our subs, our trade partners, they're all part of that team. And so when you start fostering that team mentality, it can be counterproductive to bringing new folks in, because it's hard then to say, all right, here's an opportunity that I think would be a good fit for somebody else, which means I got to take my team member now and move them out of the way on this project. And in a perfect world, there's another project waiting for them and you have enough to fill. But, even with us, as we're growing in leaps and bounds, but we're still doing 3-4 projects a year, maybe 5. That's not a lot of opportunity to bring in a new list of people to try them out. And so I think you get that back and forth, because the sub's going to think the same thing. Why are you picking me on this one? Are you just trying to screw me? Did my estimating department really screw up the number and you're going to hold my feet to the fire? Or are you, doing what you preach about, and you're actually trying to expand your team and expand your network, and you're a good person? You got to make that decision as a sub, just like you do anybody. I mean, we got to make the same decision with clients. Why are you choosing us? Why are you hiring us? Is it because I screwed up and, I bid a 2-story building and it's really 3 stories on the drawings? Or, what's your motivation? What's your intrinsic belief about this project and this potential relationship that's driving you to pick me? And that's, risk of doing business too. I'm not crying about it, but it's definitely something to consider. And I can see the hesitancy in some of the trades to go and just do free work, go and do the service calls and the maintenance, or the warranty work rather, and not charge for it. My guys that I've worked with for 20 years, it's not even a question, not even a hesitation on their end. No problem. If Matt calls, he's doing it because he needs it. We're going to help him out, and we take care of them on the flip side. But, the new HVAC guy that I'm going to meet with on Monday, I can't expect him to have that same mentality yet. We've never done a project together.
Well, and that's spot on, right? Like, the guys that you have a 20-year relationship with know what to expect, and vice versa. And the new guy you have to treat as a new relationship, right? Like, go back to the start of those relationships with everybody else, and like, how did you treat them then? And what level of expectation should you have, right? Like, no two are the same. And I think we broad brush a lot of this, and it's, it happens in the design world too, where everybody gets beat down on fee or beat down and whatever. Like I was talking to a buddy this week, and he's an architect and working on projects, and they were doing a design build. It wasn't, like the actually led as a design build project. It was led as like a typical design bid build, right? And where this was supposed to be where the subs were going to do all the shop drawings and finalize CDs and all that kind of stuff. And they didn't. And the architects were finalizing all the details and doing all that in-house. And one of the questions came up internally was like, hey, did we like, this wasn't in our contract, for architecture to do this. Did we ever have like the fee, like negotiation or revisiting that deal of like, hey, this wasn't what we agreed to. We need additional money for all this time we spent because the sub was supposed to be doing it. Right. And things like that. Right. But it's a lot of nuance, a lot of, who are you talking to? What's the relationship? How long have you had it? What can you rightfully expect? What's contractually obligated? And not being afraid to talk about money, not being afraid to talk about the contract. And even if you bring it up to say, hey, man, we'll do it this time, but per our contract, this is what, was actually agreed to. I think those are all fair in terms of like, hey, we'll take care of it, but this, to be clear, this is not within our rights. And a lot of that, I think, gets brushed over. And then the other thing that I think sometimes, or I know that doesn't happen, is the agreements that like we as project executives or owners that make with other owners, other firm owners, it doesn't get disseminated to the team as to why decisions were made. And then in the field, somebody's bitter about a decision or doesn't know and gets blindsided by something. There's nothing worse than seeing your company win a new project and you find out about it in the newspaper, right? And that's, a lot of this gets happened or what's in the contracts, and those agreements or wins or things like that don't ever get disseminated to the team. And that breeds a lot of resentment, frankly, across everybody. So this whole point about open communication is really what we're getting at, is have an open dialogue. There's a lot of nuance in here, and you can't broad brush a lot of these strokes, even though as much as we'd like to, you will shoot yourself in the foot more times than not by doing that.
Yeah, and it's it ties back to a topic we've talked about a lot over the last year, and that sometimes you just have to have tough conversations, and hashing out scope on a contract it's never fun, right? I can't think of a single time that I've been going and having one of those conversations with an owner, with a sub, with a lawyer, that ever I once thought this is actually enjoyable. It sucks, right? It's uncomfortable, but it has to be done. And you have to play in this game, this crazy game of construction where contracts are what we live and die on. You have to be able to have those conversations. You got to be able to communicate effectively. You got to know what hills are yours to die on, right? You have to know where your boundaries are. But it's all that art mixed with science. You can't, the stodgy old assholes are falling by the wayside in construction, whether the design guys, the old arrogant asshole architect, or the crusty effer plumber who doesn't like anyone and they can't talk to each other because they're of different social statuses. And those people are going away. The industry is changing. If you can't take all of those elements and kind of blend them into a pot and pour out some concoction that looks appealing and tastes good to everybody, you're going to lose. You're just going to lose. And I've got boundaries. I just sat through 2 months of negotiating a contract for a project, and we got attorneys involved, and it was an absolute headache. It was not fun. There wasn't a single part of it that's fun. I haven't received my bill from my attorney yet. That will not be fun when I see it. But we stood our ground. I stood my ground. And at the end of the day, whether or not we signed a contract, it doesn't matter. I know that I'm going to be able to look at my team and say, okay, either we're entering into this agreement and here are the terms. Don't worry. I fought for us and I got this, and this, or we're not doing this because I wasn't going to put us all at risk and put you folks in the field or in the office way behind the 8 ball before we even started.
Just letting everybody know puts you at such an advantage, right? On either side of that decision. Because, word gets around one way or the other on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's, who's controlling the narrative? Are the guys in the field controlling the narrative? Or are you as PX, as owner, as project manager, controlling the narrative? And those are two very different dialogues.
Oh, absolutely. And as a leader, you damn well better be able to communicate the actual narrative to your team, and you got to know that your team's not spewing it out the other end, right? I mean, you have to build that consistent communication from top to bottom. Everybody needs to know what the vision is. Everybody needs to know what the obligations are in a contract. They need to know, they need to represent you and your company and your core values, right? I mean, we could beat this to death. We're uncovering a lot of aspects here, but it really comes down to how you form your teams internally or externally, and the attributes that you have to look for in your new teammates. It's too competitive of a market, it's too competitive of an industry to not be very careful about who you bring into your inner circle.
Yeah, I mean, and this goes for everybody that you use, vendors, everybody up and down the chain. And then
100%.
so in that, like, and this kind of goes in the next point that we want to talk about today is, like, you've got to meet people. You've got to find ways to meet other, and realistically, guys, like, the reason that I started this podcast 3 years ago was because most of construction never talked to each other, right? In the same town, you had firms that thought you had the secret sauce. And if you talked to another engineer at another firm, you were a traitor and should be hung and, quartered at dawn, right? Like that was how, like, and am I like, that's a real thing, right? Like, I mean,
It still is.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, if you talk to another contractor or you had a conversation with another, you thought everybody was jumping ship. And for the most part, you're probably right. But it's like there was no open dialogue ever. So you had this incestuous thing of, I'm only going to talk to people in the company, and those guys have been here for 40 years. And well, you don't get anything new. You don't have any like improvement when you're learning from the same guys that have been there for 40 years that learned from the guy that was there 40 years ago who was carving drawings on stone. Like you're not learning anything. So the whole point of this is, like, you've got to expand your network. You've got to get out and meet people. If you're a contractor, probably meet people, either if you can't do it in your local market, in other markets, in groups across the US. And there's a lot of good people out there, or just even in your local area, like other business owners or people that are doing the same thing that you want to do and get better, right? Like you can learn from other industries. And frankly, that's probably where the most impactful lessons are going to come from, is from people outside of whatever you're in, right? Whether you're a specialty contractor, whether you're a GC, whether you're an architect and engineer, right? The most impactful things are going to come from outside of whatever it is that you do. And so by meeting people, by getting out and talking to people, learning about, different ways that people communicate or market or lead, you're going to have different things to do, which means you're ultimately going to get better because it's different than what you've always done and what the industry's always done. So I find that a lot of us do not get outside of our circle, whatever that might be, whether it's the guys at the bar or whatever circle you might be part of. I've had a lot of conversations here and bring a ton of guests. So we do have like a lot of guests lined up for you guys this year. And in doing that, right, we're getting out, we're meeting new people. We're going to bring on new people for you, our listeners, for the show. And in that, you learn new perspectives, new ways of doing things. And, like having Bill on and talking about social media, right? That's probably something you haven't heard or seen done by a person in construction. And Bill's one of the better guys I've seen doing it.
it's disruption of thought, right? Because when you stay in your tub of vanilla ice cream all the time and you never get into the sprinkles or the strawberry flavored or anything different, you get very, you get the blinders on, right? You're a horse in the racetrack and you only do one thing one way, but you get outside of it. And I loved what you said about, networking with people outside of your direct industry. Like that is thought disruption. It makes you stop and be like, well, holy shit, I could do this. I could do what this guy in architecture and engineering is doing in his business. I could take that back to my construction company, and nobody's doing that. Maybe I can affect some really good change. And it's just it's constant learning, right? We all should be constantly striving to learn, and that's the name of the game here. And getting different perspectives, getting with different people, that's why Arate is so powerful. Dylan and I are both in Arate. It's a mastermind entrepreneurial networking group at its core, and it is essential to be able to talk with people that aren't in your industry. There's more construction guys in it now, I think, than there probably were in the past years, but it's not like construction is a bulk of that group by any means. So you got to be able to network, and you got to be able to talk with people. And I've learned a ton from talking with marketing guys or guys that do software, right? Or, there's value you can exude from every conversation you have with every single person. But you got to be willing to put yourself out there and have that kind of awkward first date weirdness.
Yeah, and it just takes a simple intro, takes some follow-up. These things aren't totally hard to do. So this is from The Renegade Millionaire by Dan Kennedy, who, if you haven't read any of his books, you should. But so the Social Security Administration back in like the 60s started collecting data on everybody and how much money they had, when they retired and died. So 20% of people are broke. They like dead flat broke, welfare, government support, right? That is 20% of all people. And you can take it basically any population and you're going to get this. 60% struggle financially endlessly, right? They're always paycheck to paycheck. They have like no money and don't really know what the hell they're doing. 15% make a good living, right? They've got maybe a few months saved up, like they're okay. They probably have their house paid for when they retire. They're not going to go on any big trips, but they're going to be okay. 4% are prosperous, right? Like they've probably got a year's bunch of money saved up, right? Like they can weather a storm. They're not worried about paying for tires on their car, right? Like 4% of the population is prosperous. And then 1% are rich and actually know what the hell they're doing. So you basically have 20% are doing just fine, and 80% are complete idiots that have no idea how to find their way out of a paper bag. So when you look at your industry, right, like if you look at what the industry norms are, and again, we're going to apply this to construction, but this goes for everybody. If you apply the industry norms, 80% of people are complete idiots. They're doing what everyone else does, and they're getting the same results, which are poor at best. So if you do the opposite of what the industry norm is for the and especially in marketing and sales, you're going to do better than everybody else, right? Like if you have somebody physically answer your phone instead of those godforsaken automatic answering machines to press 4 for Spanish, then you're going to do better than everybody else, right? Like if you have a legitimate person to answer your phone, you will get more than everybody else simply because you had a person to answer your phone. Like, very simple thing, right? And there's a ton of examples up here, but this is the majority of what we're talking about, right? By meeting other people outside the industry, you're going to get different examples of how people do things, how people lead, how people grow, how people show the way to do things. And if you just do them, you will succeed.
That's the key, right? You got to do it. You got to take action. You can read, all of the awesome books that you want. You can meet all the awesome people that you want and have the greatest conversations. And while you're going to expand your your thought processes just through osmosis, if nothing else. If you don't take that knowledge and those tips and tricks that you learn along the way and actually implement some of them, then you're just a walking sack of knowledge, and you're never getting any better. You're gonna sit there and do nothing with yourself. So you got to get out, you got to have the conversations, you got to listen. That's the biggest key too, is you just got to shut up and listen most of the time. But then you got to implement, and you got to be creative with it, because when you're sitting down and having lunch with I don't know, pick a profession that's not construction. You're having lunch with a doctor, and you're having, some pretty cool conversations. It's not going to be necessarily 100% easy to translate what the doctor's doing in his business to what you can do in your business. And this is a shit example. So, but you get the point. Like, you got to be able to take that knowledge that now and kind of turn it into Play-Doh, right? And once you get the base knowledge, then you got to be able to squish it and move it around and roll it into little snakes and form it into something that works for you personally or for your company. And there are always ways to translate that knowledge. That transfer of thought it's not always the simplest, but it's easy.
Takes some work, plain and simple. Like, it takes some work. It takes some time to ask better questions, to sit down with your thoughts and think of the questions to ask, right? Because the questions are more important, because the questions will lead to answers. And if you just say, make a statement versus asking questions, because our brain is wired to find answers. So if you make a statement, you might not believe the statement, but if you ask a question, you're going to find the answer. So if you can form and phrase better questions, you will get better answers, which will get you better results. That's really the formation of all this. So at the end of the day, meet people, provide great service, do the right thing. There's a lot of nuance to all this. And at the end of the day, you'll do a lot better for it. So with that, Matt, any final words, my friend?
I think we covered a lot today, and it really just, in a kind of hippy dippy mentality, it boils down to just be a good human and you'll do a lot better, right? Whether you're providing a service, whether you're providing a counseling, whatever it is, if you're doing the right thing and you're giving of your time and of your effort to others, and you're out, you're not being a hermit, right? Just be a damn good human and you'll do better. And frankly, this country, this world would be a lot better place. Now, I'll get off my hippie box and cut my long hair and get rid of my tie-dye now, but you get my point. Like, it's a deeper conversation than we got into today, but that's what it relies on, or that what it revolves around, rather. It's just be a good dude, be a good person, and you'll go farther, you'll do better, period.
On top of that, so this will be my final remark, is doing the right thing and putting the relationship above the money will get you more money. We have a hard time with that often in construction, but the guys that have been around the longest, the guys that have done the right thing through and through, stick around. The guys that did it for the money in short-term gain, they're not always here. So the more you can do things for the relationship and putting the relationship first will be to your benefit above doing it for the money. Then you let money own you and not you owning money. So that's really my final remark on that.
It's a great segue in that we don't do this for the money. So there is a fee, and y'all need to chip in, share the show, give us a like, give us a share, tell your friends and neighbors and coworkers, and help us keep growing this.
Guys, that's the show. We're here to help you. We're here to serve. And tell a friend, share the show out, send a message, screenshot it, tag us on social. Be happy to reshare all that stuff. And guys, thank you for listening. And that is this episode of the Construction Corner Podcast. Until next time.